Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. And our guest is Bob Adams, founder of BusinessTown.com. Welcome to the show, Bob.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I want to give everyone some background on Bob. He founded a publishing company with $1,500 in 1980, and he sold it for $40 million in 2003. He's a serial entrepreneur who has tried his hand at a variety of businesses, some of which have been more successful than others. With his latest venture, BusinessTown.com, he hopes to put other entrepreneurs on the road to this kind of success that he has experienced. Bob calls the site the Netflix of small business. It has hundreds of free videos from subject matter experts and influencers, as well as from Bob himself on just about every conceivable aspect of running a business. We're going to talk with Bob today about Business Town, what it does, and a little bit about building empires and entrepreneurship. So first off, tell us a little more about Business Town, what it's all about.
Sure. So Business Town, as I said, I think it was a Netflix for entrepreneurs, but it is free. There are about 700 short videos, typically 3 to 7 minutes, on every aspect of running a business. And while it covers all levels of business endeavors, it's really primarily aimed at somebody that's just thinking about starting a business or somebody in the first steps. Because I remember myself when I started my first business, and when I started every business thereafter, those first steps can seem overwhelming.
Yes. So first of all, I know you've started a bunch of businesses, the big one being your publishing platform, and then you've had some others that may not have worked out. Any advice for entrepreneurs starting a business or getting into a new line of work? At what point do you decide it's time to give up?
That's a great question. I prefer to look at it, the first question being related to that very much, is how do you start, and what scale do you start?
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people should generally hold on to their full-time salary job as long as they can while they're starting a business. There are many businesses you can start part-time, and at BusinessTown.com, we list many, many business ideas that you can start in your part-time and then go on with from there. For example, when I was in college, I started many businesses on my summer vacations. These are just 10-week summer vacations in college. Sometimes I started 3 and 4 businesses. Sometimes they're in winter vacations. We're talking about businesses like a bicycle rental business, a house painting business, a lawn care business, a boat rental business, a boat brokerage business, or a map business. There are all kinds of little businesses you can start. And sometimes if you're thinking about starting a big business at some point, you might just want to start a little tiny business to get your feet wet. So I think one of the ways you avoid failure and disappointment is you start slowly. You do planning. I'm a big believer in planning, and ideally you start that business part-time.
But even as you're into the business for a while, I read a book a long time ago, 3 Feet from Gold, and it's all basically about the fact that sometimes in business you have failure after failure after failure in the business, but it doesn't mean that the business is going to end up as a failure. It's hard sometimes as a business owner to say, all right, am I 3 feet from gold, meaning in 6 months, am I going to wish that I had pushed forward a little further, or is it time to give up? That's, I think, one of the big challenges.
Question. And the simple answer, people like to say, well, you make money or not, but that's really not the simple, and that's not really the correct answer. The correct answer is whether or not you're building something of value that will have a long-term utility. So, for example, in the 90s, I had this newspaper business that was on job listings. So companies would, when they're advertising for jobs and they couldn't fill them through the traditional big newspapers, they would advertise in our outlet. Well, if the market went south, all of a sudden the market dried up. We're losing money, and I decided this was the kind of business that would not have an enduring model. On the other hand, if it had been a website, if I had regular paying customers and sales were going south and I was even running a loss, it might have been worthwhile to continue it. So that's one of the questions I think you asked when you're testing the viability of a business, whether or not you stay with it. I think the other thing you test, though, is if your current strategy is not working, is there another strategy you can use? And this is one thing I'm a real big believer in. Throughout the Business Town website, we talk about thinking about your strategy, rethinking your strategy. And I believe that even somebody literally running a part-time lemonade stand should have a well-thought-out strategy. It could just be a one-page plan. It could be a couple sentences, but you need to be different in a way that matters. Like one of my first businesses I could have given up on. This is a bicycle rental business on Cape Cod. I was doing exactly what the big guys were doing. I was renting bicycles. I was commissioning gas stations and sport shops to rent them, but I just wasn't getting anywhere. The problem is the competitors were entrenched. They could afford new bicycles. I had beat up used bicycles. They had the best locations. I had the worst locations, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I finally lucked across and got aggressive. I went out to campsites, put up posters there, and I tried a different twist on the business. I tried delivering bicycles to people's campsites, and it was that differentiation and change in strategy that took a failing business that was following everybody else's strategy into a highly successful summer business. I was 19 did that on a summer vacation, but it shows how important that thinking through a business is, getting the strategy right is, and yes, sometimes you need to change it. In fact, often you need to change it with your strategy with businesses, Dave. It's a competitive world.
Right. Keep pivoting. So with Business Town, what made you come up with the concept?
Well, I started this business actually as a fourth business in the 1990s and a whole bunch of other businesses. But as I went back and refreshed it over the last couple of years and added video to it, I particularly wanted to take people through the basics of starting a business and focus on the core issues, but also inspire people and make videos that were fun to watch. I mean, typically people are thinking about starting a business. They're working one long job, and they're doing some overtime, they're working a second job, maybe they're real busy, and it's real hard to sit down and say, well, I'm gonna read a book for 50 hours. Instead, it's a lot easier to go to Business Town and watch a 4-minute video. And videos tend to be more impactful. We have text that accompanies the videos, but if you watch a video, you're more likely to go out and take action on it and be impacted on and change your way of doing things. And that's one of the things I try to get people to do in Business Town is to change their way of thinking. Because often thinking in a common sense kind of way doesn't work in starting a business. Like if you copy what the leaders are doing, if you just hire great people, if you just spend a lot of money and buy the best of everything, you're probably going to fail. You need to do things differently. You need to hold every penny. You need to be cheap, and you need to have a plan. You need to be able to pivot in your plan too.
Wow, keep pivoting. And I'm on your site right now, and I love all the videos, especially that they're so short. So it's kind of like you can get the opportunity to get college business MBA by just watching short little videos throughout the day.
And we all have short attention spans.
Sure. Some of these short ones are very important. Like you can have a 50-page business plan. We show you how to create that. In fact, I have a sample plan of Business Town for my Bob's Rent-A-Bike business. It goes on for 20 pages. But what really matters is that differentiation of a strategy that's different than other businesses that we talk about a lot, but also having a unique selling proposition that allows you to promote that difference. So, for example, when I had the bicycle rental business, we're different than other established companies. That we had cheap beat-up bicycles, and I delivered them with the old family station wagon. But that's not something I can advertise. So instead, what we would advertise is free bicycle rentals delivered to your house with just a 2-day minimum. So there were these little things in business, these little snippets that can make all the difference in the world, and that's one of the reasons that often a short video can deliver the very powerful message.
So in building your businesses, because I'm looking at all the different businesses you've built, employment agency, classified advertising, newspaper, phone directory, street map business, tourist map business, a used boat brokerage, boat building business, house painting business, bicycle rental service. My question for you is, as an entrepreneur, how do you stay motivated on the really difficult days, on the days that you want to give up?
It's a great question. And one of the ways you do that is you go back to your plan and you go back to the basics of the plan. And if you feel committed about the plan, if you still feel you're online, great. If you're not, you change it. And sometimes you have to make changes. Maybe it looks like you're running out of money, and hence you need to change your cash flow. We show you do cash flow projections so you feel comfortable with it. Sometimes you have a bad day. You know you don't want to change a strategy. You know you don't want to redo your cash flow, and you weather through it. How do you weather through a bad day like that? You change the kind of tasks you're going to do. On a really bad day, you might decide to do some more mundane routine tasks, and you try to put off your strategic thinking for the days when you're better moods. I'm a big proponent of being responsive to what kind of mood you're in and also the time of day.
Right.
Most people around 10 o'clock in the morning, they have a pretty good energy level. It's a good time to get their best work done. But at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people across the board just tend to hit the doldrums and they're kind of just plodding through. So I believe in trying to get out of the way. Your first hard task in the morning, focus on one task as much as you can throughout the day, even if you have to do some more pressing things and get back to it. Have a plan, but you need to go with the flows. We're all only human. And I have a lot about this on the site, and it's one of the things I very much feel a mission to convey to people that, while starting a business can be great, it can be super satisfying, there are going to be days when it feels rough, when it feels like the world's caving in. And that's one of the things I've talked about in Business Town. To let people know that I've had those days too, and even with all my business experience, I continue to have days like that.
Yep.
But that's part of the nature of building a business. That's part of why you need to be a tough cookie to do it. You need to have some drive, and you need to have some direction. And it's those tough days, too, that having that plan made up, having that direction made up, and having a vision, we talk about how to make a vision statement made up, helps keep you going.
Right. And I also think it's important to have a big network, and I can see that you're involved in a number of business organizations, the Young Presidents Organization, World's Presidents Organization, Harvard Business School Association of Boston. How important is a network for an entrepreneur, and do you have any advice for somebody who maybe is not a great networker or is shy, how they can go out and start building a network?
It's okay to be shy in business. One of the things I had to do in my first newspaper business, I started a newspaper in college, I had to go and sell ads. I was scared to death of it. I developed a sudden stammer and stutter. But I could do it because being the entrepreneur, you believe in your business and you keep going. You don't have to be a great networker, but it does help to get out there. And yes, I belong to a lot of prestigious business organizations, but that's not what really matters as much. What matters more is being able to have those in-depth, tough conversations, like when you're having a problem with a client, with cash flow, having somebody you can talk to about it. It might be one or two friends who are in business. It might be a little forum group you get together with once a month to discuss intimate business issues. That's what's more important than going to big, glamorous meetings where there are hundreds of other people there.
That's great. And what's cool for you is when you get stuck in business, you can just go to your own website and find find the video that you need to help remotivate you.
Well, you make a joke of that, but I have actually literally gone back to listen to my own advice and watch my own videos.
Yes.
But another thing it does, a lot of people today, they're doing a business out of their home, and they might have employees, but they're hourly employees, and they can't go out and discuss with them, hey, cash flow is tight, it might be laying people off. So one of the things I've tried to do in Business Town with that feel of video is make it feel there's somebody there, there's somebody in your court, there's somebody who's been through all these difficulties before in many kinds of different situations, who knows what you're feeling. Well, we all go through these ups and downs. We all have these trials and tribulations.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, first of all, when did you start the website?
On the website, I started, it was a fourth business. I was running my book publishing company at the time. I was running a much larger website on careers and jobs, and I also had a software and multimedia business. So this website I had was based on a lot of material from some of the books that I had written and some of the software products I developed.
And originally, was it blogging and not video? Because I love all the video pieces.
It was all text. It was text for many years.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of text on the site. Any video that's on the site also has text with it. So there's just tons and tons of information. But one of the keys is we've divided up into categories like starting, strategy, marketing, leadership, and finance. So you can really quickly zero in on the particular issue you're working with.
Okay. That's great. So I know you already talked about, we only have a few more minutes, but I know you already talked about the importance of having a vision and a strategy. If there were one other piece of advice you'd have for an entrepreneur, something critical that they need to have in order to create a successful business, what would it be?
Well, anyone can succeed in business, but it's going to be a lot tougher if you choose a difficult business to go into. And actually, I have a video talks about bad businesses and good businesses. I also have a bunch of videos with business ideas under $2,000. And I believe most people don't give enough thought to what business they want to start. They think, well, I have a little experience at this. That sounds kind of fun, but you really need to think through all of your businesses, maybe into plans of businesses you're not going to start to find out they're worthwhile. I mean, look at venture capitalists. They expect you to have a comprehensive plan. They'll study like the Dickens just to invest a small percentage of the net worth in your business. So if you're starting a business and putting a big chunk of your net worth in it, don't you want to at least do what venture capitalists do? Almost nobody does it starting a business. People just tend to drift into it. So I suggest you really go out there and think through a lot of these business ideas. We have a lot of takes on that on the show on business ideas, what makes them work, but there's some businesses that are just inherently difficult to succeed in.
So we have with us Bob Adams. His site is businesstown.com. Everything you need to know about building, creating, strategizing for a business. Bob, the number one video on businesstown.com. If somebody has only 5 minutes to spare today, what do they need to see on your website?
It's businesses you can start for under $2,000. It's a great 17-minute video about 30 businesses. They're not, necessarily super glamorous, but they're practical businesses. Most people can start them part-time, get up and going quickly, and they're a lot of fun.
Awesome stuff. Again, it's Bob Adams, and his site is businesstown.com. Thank you for joining us today, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay. You have a great business.
That's going to do it for this edition of Get Real. Join us again next weekend for more.